Folks, Georgia Republicans are one major decision away from being in big trouble in the upcoming election. Current Georgia Governor Brian Kemp is keeping Republicans on edge regarding what his next moves are going to be. Will he run for the Senate in 2026, or will he hold out and try and run for president in 2028? But before we get into it, drop down below, hit that subscribe button, make sure you never miss another video from our channel. Now, speculation, obviously, gathering around Brian Kemp. What are the next decisions going to be for him? Is he going to run for governor, or since he's being term limited, is he going to run for Senate or for the presidency? Currently, he's a very, very popular governor of Georgia, who also chairs the Republican Governors Association and is seen as the most viable candidate to beat incumbent Senator Jon Ossoff in his first re-election bid. You know, that you can easily tell just by, by looking right here. From interactive polls from the Tyson Group, Brian Kemp beats in a head-to-head face-off against Jon Ossoff. He beats him by about 7 points here. Against Marjorie Taylor Greene, Jon Ossoff is up double digits on him. Same thing with with Buddy Carter. He's up about 8 points on him as well. That's about 600 likely voters taken at the end of January. So about 3 weeks ago. I'm guessing not much has changed in the last 3 weeks in this race here. But obviously, Brian Kemp is seen as the most viable candidate to take on Jon Ossoff. This is part of Tim Scott's plan to get to 55 seats in the Senate. Now, obviously, we all know Jon Ossoff, elected back in 2020, initially lost to Republican David Perdue in the initial election, but because neither candidate got 50%, it had to go to a runoff, and Ossoff ended up winning by about a point. A little over 50,000 votes he won by in the runoff in January of 2021. And for most Democrats, and I'd say most people across the country, Ossoff's seat is seen as one of the most vulnerable of all the Senate Democrats that are up for re-election. Kind of right in line, he's one of two, he's a senator who's up for re-election in one of two states that was won by President Trump, where a Democrat currently holds the seat. That's Gary Peters, who's not going to be running in Michigan, but it's his seat. And then Jon Ossoff's seat in Georgia, where Donald Trump won by, I believe, about a little over 2 points. President Trump was able to carry the state. And of course, the National Republican Senatorial Committee leader, Tim Scott, has said that Kemp would be the best candidate in Georgia that they have had for a very, very long time. And like we saw, recent polling from the Conservative Club for Growth, Kemp is the only Republican beaten Ossoff in a head-to-head match. But these Republicans are waiting for what Kemp's decision is going to be. What is his next decision going to be before they make their move? Obviously, a calculated risk. He is the one who, if he runs, there's going to be at least a handful of people who aren't going to run then if he runs. Regardless, there's still going to be some people who throw their hat in the ring. But we just kind of have to wait and see. And Kemp's not really giving us a lot of information on what his next move's going to be. And like we said, some people are just going to run regardless of whatever Kemp's decision is. Some people, it's just already going to happen. And some of those names that have been thrown around are like Insurance Commissioner John King, Representative Buddy Carter, and also Marjorie Taylor Greene has shown some interest in potentially running for either for the Senate or for governor. Still more information that we just need time to happen. We need things to develop at this point and really see where we're at right now. Now, Mike Collins, who he co-sponsored, or was one of the, I believe he was one of the sponsor of, let's get down here. Where do we have the Republicans? Let's see. Oh, sorry, we went past it up here. Oh my gosh, I'm all over the board. We need to go to 2026. This isn't 2021 anymore. My goodness. But so Mike Collins, who sponsored the Lake and Riley Act, could also be a candidate if Kemp doesn't run. Collins said, "I support the draft Kemp movement." That's kind of what his statement. He wants the Republicans to push hard to get Kemp to run for this seat so they can get to a 55-seat majority in the Senate. And that's from a statement Collins had gave to The Hill in an interview that he did. He said, "Our governor can win that seat, but if he takes a pass, I'll talk with President Trump and see who we need to support to make sure he has another vote in the Senate." Because ultimately, most Republicans will be able to get are going to get into a serious dogfight with Ossoff. That's just the reality here. Is regardless, like if Kemp gets in this race, it's going to be a lot easier for Republicans. But if he doesn't, it's going to be a dogfight. Like it's going to come down to the nail with Ossoff. Georgia is not a lean blue state. It's a lean red state. It's a 2, 3, 4 point lean Republican state. And Ossoff has really tried to govern as if he represents a left-wing state. And it's going to hurt him in his re-election bid. And he was one of the key senators to enact the Biden agenda to the fullest extent, voting in line with Joe Biden 97% of the time. Don't let John Ossoff fool you. Don't let him convince you that he's some sort of moderate here. He voted in line with the Biden administration 97% of the time. He was also one of the 19 senators who voted to block an arms sale to Israel in 2024. Just think about that. Israel, in a fight for their life with a terrorist organization, and we have this knucklehead here that's voting to block arms sales to Israel. That could be some major baggage for the incumbent Senator Ossoff in this upcoming election. It really is going to be baggage because the Republicans are going to spend hundreds of millions of dollars to make sure that Ossoff is not reelected. This election is going to matter a lot. Republicans see it as a top target for the Senate in 2026, along with Michigan and New Hampshire. And like we already said, one of 2 states, incumbent Democrat senator up for reelection that Trump just won in the 2024 election. And you know, it's not looking good for either of the candidates. Now, obviously, Gary Peters, like we said, isn't running, but is not looking good for either of them. And a look back at the 2020 Senate election should show, and really have Republicans open their eyes, really pay attention here. They must not play games with this seat. I'll say it again. Do not play effing games with this seat. In 2022, President Trump chose Herschel Walker to run in a race that ended up costing them a seat that they should have been able to pick up. This is an election where, yes, was it a tough year for Republicans across the board? Yes. At least for what it was anticipated to be. But ultimately, Brian Kemp was reelected in 2022 by a 10 or 9 point margin. And Herschel Walker lost the race. Do not play games with this. We need good, quality candidates. We don't need a Herschel Walker, we don't need a Blake Masters, and we don't need a Mehmet Oz. Because all 3 of those people cost us seats in the Senate. 3 Democrat seats that should have been won by the GOP. You know, John Fetterman, I tell you what, talk about a recovery, that guy. He was basically a freaking potato. He was a vegetable, basically. It's like it's like during the debate with Dr. Oz, he had to have a teleprompter to basically help him get the words out. And I get it. He's got a condition. But just because you have a condition doesn't mean that you get to become senator. That's not how this works. This is a seat that should have been won by Republicans. Raphael Warnock should have been sent to the unemployment line 4 years ago. But he wasn't. So to all the Republicans in Georgia and nationwide, do not mess around with this seat. To President Trump, do not mess around with this seat. Candidate quality is going to matter a lot in this election. Statewide elections, they do not give the same, Republicans do not give the same flexibility to statewide Republicans as they do to Trump. They don't turn a blind eye to as many things as they do on Trump as they do for their statewide candidates. And for all of those reasons, I 100% would support Kemp to lead this ticket. He would not be if I had to choose anybody to govern who would just follow in line with exactly how I feel, he wouldn't be my top guy. But ultimately, if we're talking about name recognition, popularity, ability to win this race, absolutely. Kemp is the one. He deserves to get the nomination here. Now, if he screws it over, maybe he doesn't deserve it. But ultimately, I would throw my support behind him right now to lead the ticket and really would hope that he joins this race. So let me know what your thoughts are down in the comments about Brian Kemp jumping in the race. As always, like, share, subscribe. Don't ever miss another video. We will see you in the next one, guys.